This is Michael Warner, and you are listening to Escambia Empires. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 39. It is just me. It's just your favorite, Michael Warner. Danny was handling several things for me while we were recording this episode. We actually did a morning recording for this episode, which we typically record in the evenings. So Dan was off doing important tasks for me, and I was able to conduct this interview by myself. So joining me for this episode, our guest is Lance Cook of Lance Cook Marketing, and he's a Pensacola Milton local, and he's got a digital creation and branding agency, and really he goes through a lot of his history. So I want to have him on in the future to discuss specific topics and specific tactics that you can use to stay top of mind with your audience. But for this one, it was an enjoyable episode, and I was able to kind of get his history and learn a lot about him and his start in the business and some things that have helped him evolve. So I hope it's a help to you. Here's my interview with Lance Cook. Lance Cook, welcome to the show.
Thank you. This is really neat to actually be on this side of the microphone.
I'm sure it is. Yeah, I have yet. Well, I've been a guest on another podcast one time, and it's different to be the one not pressure to direct the flow of conversation or ask the questions or anything. It's nice. Right. So, well, I'm really glad that we're able to have you on. Obviously, for those who don't know, you have your own podcast. And I'll put links to everything
Cool.
in the show notes or the descriptions for this so they can go check you out. But for those who don't know you, go ahead and just give a brief overview of who you are and Lance Cook Marketing, and then we'll jump off from there.
Well, my name is Lance Cook, and I don't typically do long walks on the beach. I'm from the north end of Santa Rosa County. I grew up in Chumuckla. I grew up in an industrial sales company, and I say that because that was a big part of my life that kind of put me on the path where I am today. But married for almost 13 years, got three really of the most incredible kids that I've ever seen in my life, among all the kids I've seen in the world.
That's good that you feel that way about your own kids. I'd be worried if you didn't say that.
So no, they're really pretty great. We're privileged. Honest to goodness, we're privileged to be able to have them go to Lead Academy over just north of Pace, and they learn so much. It's amazing. You know, we think of. I'm getting off on a tangent. You asked about me getting started, and I'm already like,
take your time, go ahead.
You know, thinking about my kids' education, because it's amazing what these kids can learn when pushed a little bit.
So you said Lead Academy. For those who aren't familiar, I'm not familiar.
Okay. So Lead Academy is a private school. It's a classical education, faith-based classical education. All right. So in the first few years, so my oldest daughter, she's in third grade, and in the first few years, they're memorizing the preamble to the Constitution in pre-K and kindergarten. They're memorizing all the presidents up to that time. Whenever she was in pre-K, you know, it was, Donald Trump was president. So all the way through Donald Trump.
Wow.
Memorized them. And she could do that.
I've never done that in my entire life.
Now, she's out of practice now, so she may not be able to do them all anymore.
But it's familiar.
But yeah, she's very familiar. I mean, being able to memorize this stuff. And then what sold us on it was faith-based classical education. So everything is, all of history kind of comes through this faith-based lens. Right, so it's really cool. History and Bible history are sort of taught synonymous. It's like, here's a record of these facts, and here's a record of these facts.
Yeah.
And
in tandem.
Yeah. Yeah. And so she's talking about Constantinople and no, excuse me, that was on a podcast I was listening to earlier. Constantine and the timeline of that, along with the timeline of post-Christ era.
Wow.
And it's just amazing. And she's learning this. She's in third grade, and she's learning about things that I don't even remember learning until ninth grade in high school.
Wow.
Maybe I didn't pay attention until then, but
that's entirely possible.
That is very possible. But it's amazing. And then my kindergartner, we're on our way to church Sunday morning, and in the visors, this little butterfly. And she said, do you know what that butterfly is? I said, pretty?
I'm not sure which answer you're looking for.
She said, it's symmetrical.
Oh, whoa.
My kindergarten. And I said, interesting. Yeah, you're right. It is symmetrical. Now, if it's not the same on each side, what is it then? She said asymmetrical.
Man, she
Like,
knew.
What?
That's crazy.
You're in kindergarten.
Interesting. So if I have kids, they're going to Elite Academy then. That's cool. That's something. And again, obviously we're completely on a different topic, but that's something that I really liked about Pensacola Christian College, where I came to school, is like, there's a number of Bible colleges and great Bible colleges throughout the country, but I wanted a liberal arts school that, taught business or finance or criminal justice or what have you from that faith-based perspective. I think that's incredibly, incredibly valuable. So, okay, well, we know about your family then.
Yeah, and then I got a 10-month-old who's still sticking her fingers up her nose.
You got your
stuff
hands
like
full. A little while before she learns what symmetrical means.
Right. So that's a little bit about the family. I mean, my wife and I, we both grew up in Chumuckla. And for people that are from around here, you might look at that and say, does that mean you're kin? Like, no. As a matter of fact, I'm the only one she wasn't kin to.
Really?
That's why she chose me.
That was your only option that wasn't family.
Right.
I'm constantly surprised by who knows who. Everybody, it's a spider web out here. And, it's cool, but it's very much a small town. We were just talking about that. We did a podcast last night with a guy who grew up here as well, James Kraft. And he said the same thing. Everybody knows everybody.
Right. So we're imports. That's what I say. My name is Cook, and there's a lot of cooks in Pace and Chumuckla. So I'm all the time asked, "Hey, are you kin to?" Nope.
You're an import.
Are you kin to? Nope. We're an import.
We're different. We're a different family.
Yep. Yeah. We came down here in '78, or my grandfather moved down here in '75. Then my father in '78, and I was born in '82. So, yeah, we're imports. Now, funny story. Wow, we're not talking about anything that we plan to. You got to watch it with me.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
Yeah.
The house that my parents bought in Chumuckla in 1984 belonged to a couple whose name was Bob and Dolly Cook.
Okay.
No relation.
Interesting. Same last name.
Yeah.
That's I suppose with Cook, that's a more common last name anyway. But that'd be a little bit weird writing up the contract.
You're the first Warner I've ever met.
Yeah, especially spelled the way it is. It's really I've never given someone my name and not had to correct them or spell the last name because it's so. But it is what it is. I'll live with it.
Right.
It's better than one of my friends' names. His last name is McCracken, and I tease him relentlessly for that. So it is.
Wow.
It could be worse for sure. Cook is definitely not that bad.
No. I got called Cookie Monster.
There are worse things to be called than that too.
And it's still a fairly accurate name.
There it is.
I love the cookies.
Yeah. Speaking of cookies, I saw you posted you're working pretty hard in the gym.
Yeah.
I saw your workouts.
Right. In fall of last year, my wife and I joined Fixed on Fitness over in Pace, and for those that don't know Fixed on Fitness, the easiest thing for me to compare it to is a CrossFit type gym.
Okay.
It's very, very similar movements, but one of the things that I loved about the owners, Josh and Kinsey Presnell, is they're not trying to push me to do stupid stuff because it's cool.
Yeah.
Whenever I got started, if I could only do a power clean with 95 pounds, then do that. It's not, you got to do more. Yank that bar.
Yeah.
They weren't trying to push me to do stupid stuff.
You have to be smart. You have to be smart when you're going and really working hard. It's easy. I tend to be this way. It's easy to go and feel like, if you can't lift your arms, then you didn't do a good workout, or noodle legs or whatever. And that's not a good thing, really. Yeah. There's a time and place for that, but you got to be really careful, especially at your ripe old age.
They're pretty. Yeah, all of 38.
Yeah, no, I'm teasing.
No, it's but really, they are fantastic gym owners. They are, like I said, they don't push you to do stupid stuff. They push you hard, but in a very smart way. And so I'm doing, I'm deadlifting things now. I'm clean and jerk things now, push press things now that I've never done. I would venture to say that I'm probably, if not in better shape, on the way to being in better shape now than I was while I was in the Marine Corps.
Interesting.
I mean, especially as a reservist. And it's so easy for a reservist to get
A little bit lazy.
lazy because you're only going to train once a month.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Well, the reserves,
Okay.
the advertisement is just 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year. And that's it. And so, we'd go out there and do a run 1 weekend a month, but then the rest of the time we're sitting at home watching Netflix and
Doing
eating
whatever
potato
you
chips.
want to do. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, in boot camp, they work you really hard in boot camp. And so I was a lot lighter then, and I was strong, but I certainly didn't lift and do what I'm doing now.
Yeah. That's something, I mean, Dan and I specifically, and his wife has gotten into it as well. We've been working really, really hard lately, just pushing and training physically intensely twice a day, actually. Not training intensely twice a day, but training twice a day at least. And I just feel like every other area has kind of been made better from the physical aspect of it. We're working on what we eat, and then you have to make sure that you have time for your 2 workouts every day, and drinking a gallon of water. And I feel healthy. I feel clean. I feel much more energized all the time. It's crazy.
Did you say 2 workouts a day?
Yeah. So
No, not me.
yeah,
my wife and I, we do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning, and that
Really?
and we're good.
Really?
Now
Okay.
we would do. They're open 6 days a week, and we would go 6 days a week if we could. But
Yeah.
trying to get the
Not
girls out to
feasible.
school
Sure.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. We balance the 3 days a week, and we love it.
Yeah, we're definitely at an easier place where we have more free time like that. And I say workouts, I mean, technically on the program that we're on, like a 45-minute walk would be considered a workout. Or I'll sit in a sauna
Gotcha.
or something like that. So
Gotcha.
that technically counts. So I'm not like lifting for 45 minutes twice a day.
Okay.
But it does help with time management too, trying to figure out how to fit that stuff in. So,
Right.
yeah, but anyway, all of this to say, you kind of your history and your family. So, well then give us a background of your business then. So your family was in industrial manufacturing, you said,
Right.
and then I know you were in the family business for a great while before you branched off to yourself.
So whenever I said my grandfather moved down here in 1975, he moved down here to start Rubber and Specialties, which is an industrial sales company. It's hoses, conveyor belt, gaskets, things of that nature, to sell to places like Gulf Power, ECUA. At the time, the Navy base was doing a lot of their own manufacturing of different products, shipbuilding, things like that. So that's why he moved down here in 1975. So then a few years later, Dad moved down, kind of followed him, started working, and then I started working whenever I was about 14. So
Wow.
it was summers and spring breaks,
Sure.
right? Lived too far out of town to make it after school as well. But summers and spring breaks, I started working whenever I was about 14. And that was just in the shop, building the hoses. And then whenever I got my driver's license, then delivering stuff. And then later moving into inside sales a little bit just to help that some. And then later outside sales. Altogether, I spent about 20 years, really just shy of 20 years there at Rubber and Specialties. And
It's a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would put me at about 34 years old whenever I left. My dad, he actually left in 2008. At that time he had spent 30 years there.
Man.
So, but he left because he had started. Well, let me say it like this. He was starting to get more opportunities in aviation. He'd been a pilot for a long time, been a flight instructor for a long time, been a airframe power plant mechanic for a long time, but all that had been on the side because he was working at Rubber and Specialties.
Yeah.
He actually, after high school, my dad went to tech school to be airframe power plant mechanic, and then that was the difference. 1975, my dad graduated high school, went to the tech school for the next couple of years. And then in 1978, after he got out of his tech school, he was like, trying to find a job. Well, he'd been working at a grocery store for 5 or 6 years at that point.
Yeah.
And literally got out of this highly technical school where he could work on airplane engines and the airframes and do all this really amazing stuff.
Yeah, intense.
And the only jobs that were available, he was making more at the grocery store than he could working on airplanes.
That is a shame. I hate that.
It was so at that time, about in
pivot just a little
78.
bit.
Yep. So then he called my grandfather and said, "Hey, can I come down and work for you?" So he did. Came down here, and then just nights and weekends, Dad was doing aviation stuff. Later, kind of got out of it, and then in 2004 he got back into it. 2008 he started getting more and more opportunities to do that, and Dad was like, this is what I really love. I've been here for 30 years. So then he took a long, nervous walk to go talk to his dad about, all right, I'm leaving.
I'm sure that's not easy. Yeah.
So
But
that was
I'm
2008.
sure Grandpa wanted the best for him,
Yeah.
to go do his own thing.
Yes, he did, after he huffed and puffed and fussed at him a little bit.
Fair enough. Yeah, if you're losing an employee that's been there for a long time, even if it is your son, that's a big deal.
Right.
So
So that was in 2008. In 2015, unfortunately, my grandfather really unexpectedly, and stroke, heart attack stuff, passed away. And then in 2017, I left. And what led up to that was, while I was in outside sales, now we're actually getting on track.
okay.
You wanted to talk about the business stuff. Now we're
Beautiful.
actually getting on track.
We took the scenic route.
Yes, I was down scenic today.
Ah.
That's how I got here. Excuse me.
That reminds me that I'm going to put mine on Do Not
Oh,
Disturb,
yeah.
actually.
So talked about getting on track, and now I'm off track.
Yeah, so 2017.
Okay,
you
what
were
led
outside-
up to that point? Okay.
Yep,
Okay, got it. So I was in outside sales. I was in outside sales for Urban Specialties for, I don't know, 8-10 years.
Okay.
Right. So, but this is really a time whenever you could use organic posts in Facebook to reach more people. Right.
Yeah.
It's not so much now. It's a little tougher now.
Yeah. A little more time intensive.
And so I knew the value, just me following different podcasts and trying to find my whole marketing journey, why I'm in a marketing agency now, why I started this marketing agency. It all started with me as an outside salesman driving from city to city, door to door, boots on the ground, shaking hands, looking people in the eye. That takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, whenever I'm driving from here to Monroeville, that time between here and Monroeville, hour and a half, 2 hours, you're not selling anything. You're driving.
Yep. And if you're not selling, you're not making money.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd get to the place and more often than not, there would be sales come from my trips. But how do I generate more leads? How do I keep positioning myself as the leader? How do I keep myself in front of my current list of contacts? How do I keep myself in touch with everybody? How do I leverage social media? How do I leverage email? How do I do this without it taking up any more of my time? How do I leverage all these assets, all these possibilities while I'm driving down the road?
Yeah.
That's where the journey began. Trying to figure that out. So while I'm driving, I'm listening to podcasts.
There it is.
Podcasts, this is 2013, 14, something like that.
Kind of just starting to.
Yeah, the podcasts are fairly early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's whenever I came across Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income. My goal wasn't necessarily passive income. It was just, how do I make more sales easier?
Yeah.
While I'm doing all this driving around, but how do I leverage all this technology to create more sales for myself?
Yeah, and a lot of interesting things come from just asking the right question like that too. I think a lot of times people, even I don't know, it's easy to not want to think like that. Well, it's just going to take time, and it takes that hustle and that work. But how can you make it easier? That's not a bad question at all. How can you leverage that time?
You probably know Matt Robinson with the Professional Investors Guild, and I had him on my podcast a long time ago, and even in other conversations, he's like, I am the laziest person you'll ever meet, and he's not lazy by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
But he's like, if
Finding
there's an easier way to do this, I'm gonna find it.
Yep. Yeah, and that's part of what has made. I mean, Matt's hugely successful, and I have. There's somebody else that comes to mind right now who I was just talking with last week, and he kept telling me how lazy and burnt out he was, and he's doing incredible things. And I thought, no, you're not. You're not. But it's kind of that mindset of being able to find a more efficient way of doing something, and that makes it better. So
I'm listening to podcasts and trying to find different things. The two main people that I was listening to the most were Pat Flynn and Michael Hyatt. And so earlier days in Michael Hyatt's podcasting, he would talk more technical stuff than he does now. Now is more of the business leader type position.
Sure.
That's the content. So I'm listening to all this, and it's like, okay, so I can use MailChimp. Okay. Yeah, I can send a mass email MailChimp. So what I had to do, this is kind of where the labor part, I had all these contacts that I had been making, and I had to put them into a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
All right. So then they go from a spreadsheet into MailChimp. Now they're in this list. I can, boom, send an email.
Yeah.
All right, so that it was something as simple as that.
Yeah, I use MailChimp now for my, I send like a weekly email out to my people.
Right. A lot of people do. And it's a great tool. That's free. And then I was like, okay, well, what about the content? What am I going to send them? Okay, I hear on these podcasts, a lot of them are talking about blogging. And blogging, this is really before podcast became the new blogging.
Yeah.
But so it was blog. All right, so how am I going to do that? And then so each little, to get to the end result, it was like, all right, how am I going to do this? Okay, blogging. I don't have time to write blog.
Yep.
All right, so on these podcasts I'm listening to, they're talking about virtual assistants. Okay, Upwork.com. All right, then I find Upwork.com and put out a bid for somebody that could write industrial blog posts. I basically send them hordes of content based on the products that we sell, and they write a blog post. Okay. All right, that's cool. Now, great. MailChimp has the RSS to email feature. Automate that. It's like the whole journey is the discovery and the use of automation.
Yeah.
So, all right, I hire somebody to write the blog post for me at Rubber & Specialties, and this is what I'm doing. They write the blog post. MailChimp automatically takes that blog post, puts it in email, and sends it to the list. Score.
Yeah.
All right. So I do that. And then I was like, what's really going to set me apart? If I make videos. 100%. So I started doing that.
Yep, there it is.
I would, I sometimes we'd have to work on Saturdays, so I'd bring a good set of clothes and go in the showroom, go in the warehouse, bring my iPad or something, put it up on a stand, and record a little product video. And then I'd send all those videos to VA, or maybe I'd load them up to YouTube, and then I'd have that embedded on the email or embedded into a new blog post, and then send that. And I was like, okay, there's got to be there's got to be a better way than MailChimp. Then I found Salesforce. And Salesforce is great for business to business.
Yeah.
That's what I did. So I used that to the extent that I felt like I was getting automation use out of it. And there were some other features in there that I really liked.
Yeah, I've heard that there's you can kind of get lost in Salesforce with all the different stuff that you can do.
Right. But it didn't really have automation the way that I wanted. It's a great contact management. It's an incredible contact management tool.
It's basically a CRM.
It is a CRM.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It is a CRM. It doesn't have much in terms of automation. At least it didn't. I think the only way that I could use automation was like another $1,000 a month. And I was like, I'm not getting clearance for that.
No thanks. Yeah.
So then I found Infusionsoft. Infusionsoft was like, at the time, my mecca of of automation and, triggers, and, it sends the email, and it did everything that I could ever hope. I was like, yes, this is it. So then I use Infusionsoft for everything. So I'm growing my contacts because I'm still out driving around, meeting folks, and the other thing that's kind of happening along the same time is how do I set myself apart again from competition?
Yeah.
All right. So the competition, we all look the same. We all sell the same. We all kind of do the same stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Like, okay.
Very much real
How do I
estate
set
is the
myself?
same way.
How do I set myself apart? And how do I meet more people in the upper echelons of these businesses? Thing that come to mind was the Chamber of Commerce. So I got involved with the Pensacola Chamber of Commerce. So now, and through a series of a couple things, now I'm the guest speaker on industrial matters at the Pensacola Chamber of Commerce Legislative Luncheon.
Interesting. I'm very interested in the Chamber of Commerce, to be honest.
So I'm going to the networking events. I'm involved in these things, and because I was the one industrial guy amongst a host of insurance agents and real estate agents and bankers, I kind of stood out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
So I was
great for
pretty
your
different.
business.
Right. So doing those things kind of set me apart. Well, then I used some of that content and those things that I was doing in the content that I would send to my list of customers and prospects. So what happened was, while I was then able to focus my time on my top 20% of my list, whole 80-20 rule. It works on your customer list as well.
Yeah.
Works in everything. Of 150 contacts or 150 businesses that I sell to, there were 20, 30 different businesses that brought me the most money.
Yeah.
So I'm driving, making sales calls, spending my time with the top 20% of my list, my A list,
Sure.
right? The ones that I'm getting the most sales out of year after year. While I'm doing that, automation is staying in touch with the other 80%.
That's pretty
it
powerful.
Keeps my sales going.
Yeah.
Because if I had not used automation and just spent my time with the top 20%, the other 80% would have been like, hey, Lance isn't coming by here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
This other guy, his competitor is. And I'd have lost that.
Yeah.
But at least I was staying in touch with them. And being able to personalize those emails with Infusionsoft, use the little code where you put their first name, and, if it's their birthday, tell them happy birthday and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It makes for a better relationship with them. And then so I'm using regular emails to stay in touch, and I make it look, I'm not sending branded, highly produced emails. They just look more like text. Like I'm sitting down at Microsoft Outlook and I just punch out a little, hey, how you doing? Is there anything I can do for you?
Yeah. That's interesting.
And they respond and say, no, I'm good right now. Or they respond and say, yeah, I could use 30 of these and 20 of these. Perfect.
There it is.
And I didn't do a thing.
Yeah. That's interesting. I like that idea. Because, mostly what I do right now is just more of like an update newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like the idea of having automated just type text, things like that,
Mm-hmm.
that make it feel a little bit more personal.
Yeah, I would absolutely recommend having that as a part of the mix.
Yeah.
Um,
So it sounds like you're doing pretty good.
Yeah,
with
so
the
so this is
industrial
working
sales.
really well. This whole automation and creating content that's beneficial, that highlights some of our products and how the products can solve pain points and things like that. It's working well. So then, among all that, I land a new client that ends up becoming my number one client. They're in the railroad industry. And I love thinking about this because it is such a reminder of how using the automation to stay in touch with everybody else helped me focus on this new top client. Whereas I think annual sales typically may be $650,000, $750,000 a year in hose and fittings and conveyor belt.
Sure.
Well, over the next couple years, that became $1.5 million in sales.
Wow.
Almost $2 million. It was like 1.9 in sales from that new client.
Wow. Interesting.
Huge client. Now, I
Yeah.
mean, they had some major projects going on, and but I didn't lose any sales from anybody else.
Mhm.
Although I was driving to Mississippi, I was driving to Louisiana. Now I was going farther, more time away from everybody else here, but I was still maintaining relationships here.
That is incredible. Really, that's powerful. The follow-up is so important.
Absolutely. So all that's going well. Now, eventually, those big projects that company did, they wrapped up because they were expanded. It was an expansion project. Once they got done with that, then it was kind of maintaining, and I would send them some small stuff. Small stuff, still many thousands of dollars, but
Yeah.
but it wasn't $300,000 order anymore. It was
Mhm.
$2,000. So that shifted gears, and now I'm back home spending time with my local clients, and then people started asking, "Hey, I like what you're doing on Facebook." And then I had one customer who's actually a client of my marketing agency now.
Okay.
He'd come to the shop at Rubber and Specialties and be sitting across the counter from me. He said, "Man, every time I leave here, I see your ads in my Facebook."
Interesting.
I say, is that so?
That's crazy. Wonder why that is.
And so a few people were like, "Can you do that for me?" So I told you how my grandfather passed away. Management in the company changed. Yes, it was a family business. It was originally a family business. But after he passed away, the dynamics of everything had changed. And there was, unfortunately, very limited opportunity for me, future tense. But people started asking, "Can you do that for me?"
Kind of came right at the perfect time there.
Yes. And so all these years of listening to business and marketing podcasts probably filled my head with this crazy idea of running my own business.
Yeah. It's funny how a lot of really the crazy ideas are the ones that often it's risky, but it works out, and you look back and you wouldn't want to do anything different. At least I'm assuming you wouldn't.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So I say it filled my head, but I'm looking at my grandfather who started Rubber and Specialties, my dad who runs his aviation contract, it's consulting, sort of contracting.
Yeah, you had some
gig.
Exposure to that kind of entrepreneur mentality.
Right. My entire mom's side of the family is all entrepreneurial.
Really?
So there was a lot of entrepreneurial background on both sides of my family, not just my father and my grandfather, but my uncles as well. It's just everywhere I turn. it's just a part of who we are, really.
That's awesome. I love that.
And but I never really considered it for myself. And then the opportunity seemed a little more dim at Rubber and Specialties, and then people are asking me about doing this social media marketing and stuff for them. It was like light bulb.
Yeah, that is perfect.
So, that was in 2017. I turned in my 2-week notice. Either 2 weeks or a month, whatever. I gave them plenty of time. And then I left. And now the funny thing is, people were asking. Yes, they were. But I left with one client. I had one marketing client.
For your new business.
For my new business.
I mean, must have been a really good client, huh?
I mean,
just stepped out on the edge.
It was probably, yeah. It was there was $1,000 startup fee and then $400 a month. And that was it.
Hey,
now,
$400.
Right after that, like that paid for my house bill.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, for me, it's like, oh, cool. But yeah, I don't know. One, you didn't have 3 kids at that time, so I'm sure not quite as many expenses as now, but
we had 2.
Okay, yeah, so not much better. So $400 a month.
So $400 a month, and but it didn't take long before. Remember, I talked about that one guy who was a customer at Urban Specialties. It didn't take long before he called me and said, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you about doing some work with you."
Yeah.
So then word got out that I was.
There was already available. Some familiarity there. Sure.
Yeah, and it didn't take long to pick up. And now I wouldn't trade this life for anything.
I love it. I love hearing that.
Anything. I mean, it's so cool. There's flexibility in hours. There's still lots of late nights sometimes. So there's still some hustle and grind. But there just the flexibility, honestly. And my uncle called it. My uncle, he lives in El Paso right now. But he said you can't beat the flexibility. And he's right.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that I just get to lollygag all week.
We talk about that a lot on the podcast. Yeah, it's funny. We had a lender on a couple weeks ago, and he was saying how he kind of got into mortgage lending because he saw some of his friends were doing it, and he felt like they were always out fishing. And then once you get started, you realize that it's not that way.
It's not all fishing.
Yeah, and there are times when it definitely is.
Yeah,
but
and so kind of circling back to one of the first thing that we talked about, going to Fixed On Fitness. So I get up and I go to the 5 a.m. class. It's 5:10 to 6:10, and then I come home. My wife has the kids up, and she's packing lunches and stuff, and then I kind of help finish out and get the baby fed, and then she takes the kids to school and goes to the gym, and I stay at home with the baby.
Cool. Got a nice little trade-off.
Yeah, and we do that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And we've said many times, we'd never be able to do this if I was still at Urban Specialties. And I've sometimes I get a little guilt feeling about that. I do, because there's so many people, the employees now at Rubber and Specialties, they don't get to do that.
Yes. And you see people who are working hard for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't seem fair sometimes.
And I'm thankful for the people that different people are called to do different things.
Yeah.
And
also, not to cut you off, but different people are called for different things, for sure. Different people have different skill sets, and some people just have a risk tolerance, or they're willing to make that leap where others aren't. I know a lot of people right now who work longer, really long hours, work really hard. But if I said, hey, do you want to work a commission job where you might not get paid for your first 3 to 6 months? They'd say, no, I'm good. Yeah. So on that respect, it's easy to feel a little bit guilty sometimes, but the sacrifice that you took in the very beginning is also easy to forget,
Yeah. And I really appreciate the folks that do work, like that, because if it weren't, and this is one of the things that was so satisfying to me about working at Rubber and Specialties, is that this hydraulic hose that's 36 inches long, 1-inch diameter with female JIC fittings on each end. I know I'm talking stuff now, but anyways, this little hose that probably cost $56, if it's on the crane that's putting up the bridge going to Gulf Breeze,
Yeah.
if that hose blows, production halts. But me delivering that hose keeps the job going, and that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So those little things like that really made it satisfying to me. I would sell an entire hose package for a crane at Gulf Power, and usually that's a pretty big order. But that hose package kept the crane moving, and this is whenever they were still using coal, but kept the crane moving to get the coal off the barges onto the shore or onto the coal docks.
You're part of a big project.
I could see it was really cool because I could see and I felt that big picture of what I'm doing and how it is a benefit to the local economy.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. And now it's really cool because what I'm doing now, helping these local businesses with their marketing, whether it's social media marketing or video marketing or helping them use automation for their marketing. So that enables the business owner to generate more business and keep more employees employed.
Yeah, you're
and
helping.
So now everybody gets to go home to their families and enjoy their dinner. And hopefully that business owner who was completely stressed out about where are these leads coming from, how am I going to fulfill this paperwork and work on this truck and be home before dinner time.
To spend time with their family.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I've helped him relieve that stress.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're a part of that big picture still. And I mean, yeah, that's what Mark likes to say all the time is a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
And it's the same exact principle when you're helping business owners succeed. All of those owners have people that they service, clients that they service that are important, and people working for them and their own lives. So that's really the world of business is it's a living, moving organism. It's exciting, it's fun. I love it.
And I enjoy it. I've enjoyed business stuff for a long time. And thinking back to where I thought I was going to take or working towards more of a leadership role at Rubber and Specialties. I was an assistant manager and marketing director and things like that. But I mean, it was like I wanted to fill my granddaddy's shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was just amazed by what he did. And as a youngin', late 20s, I could look at that. I looked at that and was like, man, I would do this better. I would do this better. But then as the more conversations I had with him about what goes into running a $15 million business with 6 branches and, now he's got 6 branch managers and each one of them have 3 to 8 employees. The more I learned, the more I realized I didn't know.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing to kind of come to that realization in growing up.
Yeah.
And not just being cocky like I could do it all.
I could
do it better.
Yeah.
But learning how much I didn't know. And
that's something that comes with experience. Yeah, when you're young, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So that's funny to hear you say that. I have to check myself a lot of times because I not necessarily that same way. To be honest, I look at like my broker and I feel like there's no way I'll ever be able to know as much about real estate as he does. But there's a lot of times, dealing with professionals and things like that. It's like, I got this figured out pretty well. This is pretty nice. And you just got to be careful because a lot of times those are times when you'll get knocked on your hindside. So, well, this is cool, man. We're approaching 45 minutes. So to be honest, we'll make this an episode of just your story here.
I hope that what we've talked about has been beneficial.
Yeah.
At least maybe a little bit entertaining. And hopefully there's something in my story. Is there something that you wanted to tackle?
To be
specifically?
honest, not really. I feel like it gets lost sometimes in just doing episode after episode. But one thing that I want people to understand about this podcast specifically, there's a lot of other podcasts where you can learn a lot of other things.
Mm-hmm.
This is about exposing local business owners and professionals here in the Panhandle. So I want people who listen to this, if they're interested in any kind of digital marketing or things like that, I want them to know who you are. So I'm not necessarily worried about, specific tactics or things like that. We'll have you on again and we can talk about something like that, something maybe a little bit more specific. But for right now, I've enjoyed this, and it's my show, so that's what matters.
Okay. Well, we can talk about more granular things later.
Yeah,
I'm all up for that. What I would say that's the thing that's really been a driving force in my success is kind of something. The words were put into good context by Mike Johnson, a State Farm agent. Been a State Farm agent for 40 years around here. See and be seen. You can't hide in a hole and expect the leads to just magically come in.
Interesting.
You have to put yourself, whether physically or digitally, you have to put yourself in front of your prospect. I did that with the Chamber of Commerce. I did that with my automation, with my videos that I used in email automation. And I did that physically while I was driving around. This is all in industrial sales.
Yeah.
Here on the digital side, as a digital marketer, I do that with video ads now. And every time I turn around,
video content.
And every time I turn around, somebody says, "I've seen you somewhere." They may not be able to picture. They may not have put it together right away. But every one of my best clients they feel like they've seen me everywhere. And
that's powerful.
Yeah. And then my clients, their customers tell them, we feel like we see you everywhere. And that familiarity breeds trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the simple principle of know, like, and trust, they're never going to know you and like you if they don't see you first.
Yeah.
So you got to be seen. And
it's cool that you're able to take, I think a lot of people are very good at something, but they couldn't replicate it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obvious that, if you're getting that same kind of feedback from your clients, it's obvious that you found a system that works and you're able to duplicate that in different industries and different businesses. And that's ultimately what people come to you for.
Right.
If they know that they're going to get that kind of response from their clients, that's incredibly valuable because like you said, it's about finding ways to stand out from the noise, because really there's nothing new under the sun. There's not really a whole lot of new things. There's just people doing things better and standing out from the crowd. So I find that incredibly valuable. Well, is there anything that you'd like to say while you have the floor here? Any tips or anything like that?
I would just encourage folks to use video and use automation. To use the video, because chances are your competitors are not. And video is, to me, it's a fast track for people being able to see your face and hear your voice.
Yeah. And then get to know you, like you said.
Right.
Know you and like you.
Right. Mm-hmm. Now, different industries are going to work a little bit different, but for many of the local businesses where it's the mom and pop shop, they're buying your stuff because your products are good. They like it, but they're buying it because of you.
Mm-hmm.
They like you. They trust you. If it weren't for Scott Richardson at the coffee break where we met for lunch one day, I probably wouldn't have felt such a tie to that, a desire to go there if it was just another coffee shop.
Yeah.
There are other coffee shops.
Yeah, on every street corner pretty much.
But
there's a ton of them.
But I love Scott.
Yeah.
I mean, that relationship goes back to where he was letting me play music in his shop and paid me with a cinnamon bun.
Nice. I forgot. Yeah, you used to. What did you used to do? For music?
Oh, for music? No, I mean, I've been playing guitar since I was little, so
Okay.
playing and singing. And there's little videos
Playing
of
for Cinnabons.
yeah.
I'll play for Cinnabons, to be honest. I'll learn guitar.
Well, he had this huge. I mean, it was probably 8-inch diameter cinnamon roll with covered in frosting.
All right, I'm not allowed to have those yet, so I don't really want to talk about it.
And that's what he paid me with. And so there's a long relationship. If it wasn't for that relationship, I could go to Starbucks and get a coffee. Except for other reasons, I'm not going to Starbucks. But that's different.
No, I hear you. I mean, it's definitely local is such an important thing, especially like we were talking about earlier in a smaller town like this.
Mm-hmm.
When you know somebody who owns a specific business or service or what have you, and you trust them, I've got people that I know and trust, and they get all of my business because, well, I know them and I know that they'll do the work that I want, how I want it done.
There's, and this kind of going back to the CrossFit gyms. There's several CrossFit type gyms in Pace and Milton alone. And I keep referencing that because we live north of Pace and Milton. There's several gyms to go to. And I could have for about the same price, maybe even a little cheaper. I don't know. I didn't look. But we started going to Fixed on Fitness with Josh and Kinsey because we had a connection with them. Years ago, Kinsey was doing swim lessons for little kids, and our kids went to her house for that. So we knew them. There was that personal connection.
Yeah.
And so, and their kids also go to lead. So there's another connection. There's all these different connection points that whenever it came to, we'd like to go to a gym, where are we going to go? We know these people.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, like you said, you maybe could find another gym for cheaper, but you didn't even look. That speaks volumes too. You had that connection. You're like,
Right.
Well, we want to go to a gym. I know them. Let's go there.
And we know a lot of people at the gym already.
That's another thing too. Yeah.
And so that was a huge plus. And so the whole idea of being seen and being connected, and that we're going to do business with people that we trust.
Yeah.
And so that's why we chose that place. And that's why we choose most everything that we go to. I've developed a relationship it's just been over the years. First, I met the lady who runs the UPS store. I know it's a UPS store. It's not necessarily a local business. It's locally owned. It's a franchise. But the person lives here, employs here. And but I met her at a Chamber of Commerce event, and I needed to ship stuff. Actually, I don't even ship stuff out of that UPS store.
Uh-oh.
I use it for a copy because
Really?
whenever I'm putting together my printed strategy plans for new clients,
Sure.
The printing is just great, and I don't have to wait so long like going to a print shop.
Yeah.
It's almost instant. I can send it
Well, that's cool.
overnight.
It's going to get a little more inundated now because
Yeah.
people listening to this are going to go use it for their printing. I've never even knew that UPS would do that.
Yeah, so it's just printed. It's got that hard back and the clear cover and the coily
Cool.
binding.
Yeah.
And
Professional.
so I met the lady at a Chamber of Commerce event and said, hey, I need to have this kind of printing. Can y'all do that? Yeah, sure. So then that's where I go to have my strategy plans printed for clients. And then the list just goes on and on. The reason that I do business here is because I met the guy over here, and I know him now, and I like him. So then I'll trust him with my money.
Yep.
I could go to GNC, but I go to MaxFit instead to buy supplements.
Because you know and trust.
Because I know Jason.
Yep.
I can't remember how I came across him, but referral, that's how that happened. Somebody that I knew at a gym before recommended him. So being seen, and as far as digital marketing, I'm a big proponent of using video. And you can see that on my stuff, but just staying in front of people using video, because whenever you're establishing yourself as the trusted expert authority, seeing your face and hearing your voice absolutely sets you apart from probably 99% of your competition.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with you. And that's one reason that we wanted to do the podcast too, is just a way to to network, obviously, and then for people to be able to go, if they want to learn about us, they can hear us talking and see us. So that's a big thing. Well, cool, Lance. I appreciate you jumping on, man. We've been talking for a while. I knew like last time we went out for coffee was the same kind of thing.
It sure was.
I enjoy talking with people who I don't know. There's sometimes you have a conversation with somebody, and there's nothing against anybody I've had previously on the podcast or anything, but sometimes you're talking and it's like the conversation just. They'll answer a question, it just drops dead. And it's like, oh, okay, so you got to kind of jump in and revive it and save it. So I appreciate not having to do that at all. It's clear that you're used to talking on camera and doing stuff all the time. So, well, that's cool, man. I appreciate you jumping on the show. And like I said, I'll put the links to your podcast and your socials in the social media. Do you have a place where you would prefer people to connect with you, or?
I mean, general home base is going to be the website where everything starts. But I'm really more active on Instagram than I am on Facebook nowadays. I use Facebook for advertising because it goes on both Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
And the majority of my target audience is, when it comes to advertising, is going to be on Facebook. Just thinking demographics and targeting and who am I trying to reach, they're typically on Facebook more so than Instagram. But I have more fun on Instagram because then I can just follow the aviation channels and the hot rod channels and the motorcycle channels that I want.
Instagram, I don't know. I've always liked Instagram much more. So, okay, my friend. Well, I appreciate it. And this is the first time we've ever recorded a podcast in the morning. So, you get the award for that one. I'm glad we were able to get the time and make this work. So
great.
Appreciate it. And we'll follow up at some point in the future. I know we will. But we'll sit down and talk more specific strategy or something like that.
When we do that, we'll have to outline it so
we can stay on track. Sounds good. Okay. Thanks, Lance. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Mike.
All right. Well, if you are still here, I appreciate you for listening all the way through to the end, and I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about Lance just as much as I did. It's easy to tell that he cares a lot about his family and his work, and he's really somebody that I have enjoyed getting to know, and somebody that I definitely plan on associating with in the future. So if you're still here, I appreciate you very much. Really, whoever listens to the episodes, I get comments every once in a while of somebody saying, hey, I listened to this episode about some specific topic and it helped me, or I enjoyed learning about so-and-so, or people saying, hey, I know so-and-so and I listened to their podcast with you, and I enjoy hearing that kind of thing. So as always, we appreciate our listeners, we appreciate the support, and we will catch you on the next episode. Thank you so much.